I have learned a ton about podcasting and speaking and coaching and business and sales and marketing and all that over the last almost 8 years now. I started in 2017 and then I've been doing this full time since 2018. I think commitment is the issue, not just with relationships, but in general. If you are aspiring to any goal, you're going to have to stay more committed than somebody else. And I think one of the most common misconceptions about relationships is they should be easy and they either work or they don't. I believe in reality, relationships are about growth. If you're motivated by dating and love and sex and relationships, you have these cycles where when you're with someone and you're courting someone, you're on fire. I think it's really hard to take personal accountability if you don't have very high belief in yourself.
This episode is about you. I want to know what you do and the amazing things that I saw about you in the space of podcast and in other fields of social media. And I want this episode for you to probably enlighten me because I've seen you coach people. I've seen you tell people some good tips and tricks about podcast. I've just recently started this, so probably I would rather put you on the limelight, and if you can let me know
Yeah.
how you do things and what are your suggestions for not only for me but for the other viewers who are watching
So
us.
here's the thing. I am somebody who I never planned on being a podcaster. I hated public speaking.
Okay,
This wasn't the goal. I didn't think this was.
the irony.
I fell in love with podcasting.
Okay,
I was suicidal at my job.
okay,
And I said, if I could podcast for a living and this could be my job, I would be the most fulfilled person on the planet.
okay.
Like, this would be incredible. So essentially, I partnered up with my business partner, who was a good friend. And then I tried to learn absolutely everything I needed to know in order to grow this podcast into a business. So I have learned a ton about podcasting and speaking and coaching and business and sales and marketing and all that over the last almost 8 years now.
Okay. So you started way ahead.
I started in 2017 and then I've been doing this full time since 2018.
Nice, nice. And how was it back then though? Like I used to listen to some, but I was not as I would not call myself an avid listener of podcasts. I recently started listening to podcasts after the pandemic because we were at home, we had nothing much to do. But when you started off, were there many players in the field? People were doing this.
Yeah, I don't think there were nearly as many independent podcasters,
Okay.
right? Because now you're independent. You're
Right.
not sponsored. You're not connected to a studio, right? Same. We're independent, even though we're maybe more successful than the average independent podcast. So I would say it was a lot easier in one way. I think there was less competition in 2017, 2018, but there was also far less resources. So
Hmm.
today you can throw your full episode into a program. It'll cut up your clips. It'll caption it for you. It'll do B-roll. I had to learn how to video edit at a fairly high level in order to make content back then. So
Nice.
there were definitely some upsides, but there was also a lot of downsides. But I kind of liked it. I kind of liked it back then because there weren't really full-time content creators.
Real.
Now, there's a lot of people that just spend all day trying to create viral content for social media.
True.
It was a little bit different. Instagram was different in 2018 than it is today. So definitely some upsides and some downsides to it. So.
Correct. And I agree to your point. That content creation back then was different. I never really thought that people could make money off of it. And I'll tell you a bit about myself because before moving to Canada in 2020, I was living in Pakistan. And in Pakistan, yes, not only we had less technological advances, but there were also a different mindset that people used to have. Now that's different too, by the way. But back then, if we're talking about the same time when you started your podcast, for us, content creation was more like entertainment. We did not know that it could bring you, dollars and it could probably pay off your bills, and you don't really need to work or grind yourself in your 9 to 5, or spend that much time on getting education. Because till date, people from my country, until very recently, had the mindset that we have to, get our degrees completed, and then we have to get certifications, and we have to work 9 to 5, and in that 9 to 5, we have to give our entire effort just to grow that corporate ladder. And that's exactly what the mindset I had. And when I moved to Canada, things were really different. Although it was COVID, but there were these many platforms that were making people money, such as YouTube was sure very famous, but then TikTok. People started very recently monetizing through Snapchat and Instagram, and I didn't know anything any about that. And I told a lot of my friends, let's do something in this space. Let's start a podcast. And none of them were as keen or as interested until very recently. I was like, you know what? If someone joins me or not, I want to go ahead, at least, just do the episode that I feel like I can do, talk to people that I can get, and understand their lives and what they've been doing, because they've been doing amazing things that other than what I was doing. So I was not interested in people who were successful in their corporate life, because I've seen that. I've seen that life. I've walked with people who were at one point they were even CEOs of the company. So I know how they operate. I know how the mindset is. But it was very what's the word there, that it was not appealing to me anymore, because all these people are doing great things that they feel like out of their own comfort zone and time, and they're way better than a lot of people, because the people who work 9 to 5 are usually stressed, and people who are making content are not only, okay, probably they're stressed about what to do and how to handle their business, but it's their own. The fulfillment is something else. So when you were talking about the highs and lows, I would love to know what were the highs and what were the lows, and what were the issues that you faced, and what were the different rewards probably you got to see compared to what you're seeing today.
Yeah, I mean, the lows are easy. The first 2 years, we didn't make any money.
Okay.
I was $30,000 in credit card debt. My car broke down. I couldn't afford to get it fixed. It would literally, the brakes didn't work and it would literally stall at red lights. Yeah, it was that bad. I couldn't afford Christmas presents for my girlfriend, now my wife. I literally just I couldn't buy her anything because I had no money. She had to pay rent for several months. So it was almost, when I look back, it's like any other start. In the beginning, we had really big goals, we had really big dreams. We felt like there was this mission and this purpose, but we had zero resources. That was a big piece of it, is just being broke. The other thing that, because that's external, the internal was, Rohit, I probably come across today as somebody who has a ton of self-belief, but I dealt with so much imposter syndrome. I never thought I was smart enough. I never thought I was good enough. I was wildly insecure. So I had to work through all that stuff. And it was really, really, really challenging to keep showing up when you didn't feel like you belonged. So that was, a lot of that was the downside. The upside, man, I've had the privilege of interviewing some of the most successful people on the planet. Millionaires, billionaires, one billionaire, not billionaires, one billionaire. We've been coached by some of the most successful people in the industry. I have learned so much about humans and about myself and psychology and just business and marketing, all that. And now essentially I get to live my dreams. We have a very successful business and I get to do this every day. I get to podcast every day and I get to coach podcasters, and it really is weird. I do oftentimes have to pinch myself because I get to work from home every day. I have pajamas on for the lower half of my body. It's like, that is so amazing to me that I have the privilege of doing that. But the thing that I always try to tell people is, it's way, what we're doing, the way we're doing it is way harder than it probably looks. I am hyper fulfilled because I get to do what I love. But my life right now is the most stressful it's probably ever been, but I'm also the most fulfilled I've ever been. So there's something to that, but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that you would just never see because you assume, well, you guys are just a podcast. So yeah, we are, but there's so much stuff that goes on that people wouldn't know.
Correct. And I'm not even sure if I understand 100% what those problems or those hurdles that you probably face in your everyday life, because like I said, I'm just starting off. This is probably my eighth or ninth podcast. So I'm still far. I still have a long way to understand many things that you just mentioned. But from what I just heard, there are quite a few interesting things that you mentioned, and I'm sure a lot of people like myself would be interested because you've done the grinding. So let's start off with the low that you mentioned when you were in debt, and or when you were going through that debt, and when your partner was kind enough to still support you. But then again, there are a lot of issues that people see in today's relationship that it actually, most of them, at least from my experience or the friends that I know, they suffer from the fact that a lot of partners don't want to probably stick through them when they're in their lows. So if you don't mind and if you're comfortable, would you like to share how that period was for you, and how was your partner, just so adamant to support you in your concept, in your idea, or for that matter yourself, because you're the person that she loves, and she has proven that with time. But how was the experience at that time?
It all started with the understanding that I wanted to explain to her my perception of what this journey was going to be like. So I knew my wife, we dated years ago. Okay. I wasn't ready for a relationship. She was way too developed for me. She was just way more developed than I was. I couldn't handle it. So we ended up
When
separating.
you say develop, sorry to cut you off, you mean to say that she's more mature in terms of the way she used to think?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. She had just done way more self-improvement, personal development. She was just way more aware than I was. And I also knew at the time I was traveling a lot for work. I just wasn't ready. I didn't want to be in a relationship and not be able to be around. So it didn't make sense. When we reconnected and when we started dating, and I knew if I'm going to date this person, this is the person I'm going to marry. I'm not dating you to
Okay.
date you. I'm dating you because I'm going to be with you forever. We had a real conversation, and she said, "The only thing I want you to do your thing. I want you to chase your passion, your purpose, do this podcast and do this business thing. I know how much it means to you. The only thing that you can't ever do is ask me to be an entrepreneur." And I said, "I will never ask you to be an entrepreneur." I said, "The only thing you can never ask me to do is to leave the podcast. Because if you ask me to leave the podcast, I can't be with you. The podcast is my fit. Like this, I traded everything for this. This is my purpose. I'm all in on this. I will die for this."
That's so hard,
That
Kevin.
it was
Right?
really hard.
For a woman, especially knowing that if this is gonna pay you off or not, and that's gonna be something that she has to live with too, because finances are very, very big. That's a huge deal.
Yeah, yeah, but I think that's the thing is I can't take credit for the way that she reacted. The way that she reacted is based on her and the work that she's done for
Correct.
herself. I think I think she knew that I was always gonna do my absolute best to be the best man I could be. That
Okay.
at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money I make, it doesn't matter how many lists we have. None of that matters if I'm not a good man. That's
Okay.
number 1. Number 1 is good man. And she comes first. She's the most important thing, and she's the most important person in my life. The podcast is a very, very, very close second.
Mhm.
Very close,
Okay.
right? It's
Yeah.
they're very close.
True.
But I think that she believed in it. I think that she believed in me, and honestly, and I think this is the mark of a real relationship and whether or not a relationship will work. Even if I wasn't successful, I think she'd still want to be with me. And that's the
Okay.
difference. Even if one day I woke up and said, "You know what, babe, I was wrong. This isn't going to work. I'm going to go find a job." I think she would have been as supportive then as she is now. So she wasn't with me for the potential. She was with me because of,
Who you were and the abilities that she saw in you. Yeah. And that's very rare. I don't know how to put it to you. You're probably one of those lucky men that probably found someone who believed in you, because nowadays on the internet, I don't need to have a lot of people that I know who are going through that. I just see it from the internet, and you kind of understand what's happening in the world based on the content that's being shared and based on the posts that are being more viral, and most of them are related to relationships. And I think someday, if I'm fortunate enough again to have you and your partner together in the near future, probably I come down to New York. and have this conversation with her as well to understand her point of view. But since you're also more or less you can speak on behalf of her, do you think that there's something wrong with this generation or the people in terms of how they choose partners? And if so, if they're even choosing the right partners, but is there something that they lack in terms of the efforts that they put in or the understanding that they should build amongst themselves? Because like you said, you were very clear when you were dating her or wanted to date her or started dating her that, you know what, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give my 100%. A lot of people would back out, be like, yeah, this guy's probably crazy. He's not making anything and he wants to start a podcast. At that time, a lot of people probably not even understand that this could make money. And if so, how soon? So who's gonna pay the rent? Who's gonna pay the electricity? Who's gonna pay for the car? So all of those questions are pretty normal for a human, be it man or woman, to ask. I don't blame the women too, because they need to be thinking about their future, their security. And I'm someone who also believes that a man should strive to work hard enough that the woman can work if she wants to. She doesn't have to, but if she feels like working and contributing to the household income, that's good. But a man's responsibility should be that he needs to work hard, as good enough that he can pay his bills, and if he have kids in the future, he needs to be able to take care all of them. So that's my ideology. But from where you come, what do you think is the issue nowadays with people? And sorry, I did not intend to start this with relationship, subject, but I'm very, very happy that your journey has been really good, which a lot of people are not been able to go through that. So if there are a few words that you can probably share before we move to the other part.
Course.
Yeah.
Our podcast is about health, wealth, life, and love. So I'm
Perfect.
happy to jam on. I'm happy to jam on anything, my friend. I don't think it's just relationships. I think we have a commitment issue in general because it's easy not to commit because you can get your needs met in so many other ways so quickly. It's not it's not like it used to be where the opportunity was only within the people that you could see. Now, I mean, oh, your relationship's not working? All right, you can go watch porn. It's
Right.
easy. Your phone's right there. You can find 15 websites before you can hold your breath and find 15 websites.
Correct.
You can go on a dating app easily. You could go on Facebook and message someone you used to mess around with. I think commitment is the issue, not just with relationships, but in general. If
Mhm.
you are aspiring to any goal, you're going to have to stay more committed than somebody else. If you aspire to more results in any given arena, you're most likely going to have to practice more discipline and more commitment. And I think one of the most common misconceptions about relationships is they should be easy and they either work or they don't. And I believe in reality, relationships are about growth. The point of a relationship is about growth. The point of this conversation is about growth. It's not for me to sound good or for you to sound good.
Agreed.
I can
Yeah.
tell you're super curious and you
Yeah.
want to learn it.
Yeah. I want to understand. Yeah. I want to understand.
Yeah, this is about growth. This relationship between you and I is going to work really well because we're both focused on growth. It's not about me. It's not about you. We will both want to give. I think that's one of the most common misconceptions about relationships is one, this person doesn't solve all my problems. Well, I don't know. I feel like when I got with this person, I should be more confident and I expected they were going to fix certain things about me. It's not the way a relationship works.
Okay.
And, well, sometimes our relationship is hard and we have disagreements. There's a difference between a disagreement and a full on battle. I think disagreements are normal based on the fact that you are going to try to grow together. So yeah, I would say that. And one of the things that my wife and I try to say very often is we're on the same team. If I forget to take the trash out or she forgets to do something, there's no reason to have an argument over it. At the end of the day, we're on the same team and we want the same things and we want the same results. We just have to make sure that we're protecting our team members. And I think sometimes in relationships, it's easy to forget that. It's easy to forget that it's not my job to be right. It's my job to make sure that we can work really well together. It's not her job to tell me I'm right. It's her job to make sure she holds me to the standard that I promise I would be in terms of a man. So, yeah, I think that's a really big piece of it, honestly.
I am laughing a bit inside because, um, probably Wednesday night it was, that I was with a friend, and he's a photographer, and he was helping me set up how to do a podcast at my place, because before this I would go to the studio, and that too virtual with you. I told him about you. And then we were just having the similar discussion about his relationship, and he's been with his partner for 12 years. They're married, and he told me always that, it's an easy formula for us, that it's us against everyone else. So whatever happens, we think of ourselves, like you put it in the same word, it's a team. So if anything it is, be it a family issue or extended family issue, a friend's issue, or anything for that matter, it's always going to be us against the problem, rather than, it's me and you up against each other and trying to blame each other, and do that. Because if you don't have that level of understanding with your partner, then probably the relationship is not right. That's what I feel. Or probably you just don't have a similar mindset that you wanna live a life that is of the same ideology that you guys have. And that's fair too. If you are able to understand that sooner, that's good. A lot of people actually waste years of time, and I personally also know a lot of people suffering from these relationships, because I have a good friend. It's been what, 3 years now since probably he's back and forth with that girl, and I've seen him go downhill. I don't want to name him, but I've seen him go downhill, and he was a very good guy. He still is a good guy, but he was in shape before, and now he's just indulged himself into all the other things. And that girl probably could not even care less. She's somewhere with someone now probably, but yeah, he's the one who's suffering, and it's hard for me or anyone else for to explain it to him that, you know what, you need to really fix yourself, and anyone who can do that is just you. No one else can come for you. We can probably come there for an hour or two, talk to you, but at the end of the day, you have to get up and do the grinding. And what do you think about people like that, or people which are very common nowadays that you see on social media, especially the teens or the early 20s?
It's very important to figure out what motivates you, because if you're motivated by dating and love and sex and relationships, you have these cycles where when you're with someone and you're courting someone, you're on fire.
Hmm.
And if they end up leaving, or you get, yeah, I don't want to say you get heartbroken, but if it doesn't work out, I know a lot of people, men, because most of my friends are men, where if they have a prospect of love, they're on fire. But the second that prospect of love goes away, they fall back to the same patterns of behaviors that they had before. It's just really important to understand what motivates you.
Yeah.
I'm not, for me, it's not, okay, I had to get my wife and she's got to start dating me. I don't really think about it that way. Like, I still go to the gym 6 times a week. For me,
Good. Yeah.
it's motivating, but that's not my main driver.
That's not your identity. In that way, yeah.
No, no, it's, if anything, I need to get better as a man. It's my job to get better, not rely on what I have. I don't want to do that. I'm guilty of that in the past for sure. Right? I dated people in the past thinking that they were going to fix my problems.
Mm.
And then when they left, it was their fault that I felt bad. No. Just like it wasn't their responsibility to make me feel good in the first place. So I think it's an ownership thing.
Self accountability is very strong. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's really hard to take personal accountability if you don't have very high belief in yourself, right? It's hard to take responsibility for something that you don't think you can change. And I think that becomes kind of a self-belief and self-worth potential issue. And I think that's one of the reasons we see that very often now, is because I think now it's very easy to look at someone who looks like they have it all on social media
True.
and assume they are somebody who believes in themselves a ton and they love themselves a ton, when in reality, that isn't necessarily, and there's a high probability that it isn't true. But you don't know that, so it changes the way that you look at yourself. And social media is an amazing thing in many ways, but it's Pandora's box in a lot of other ways too.
Yeah, it has its negatives to a high extent too, because the problem is, by the time, especially I'll talk about myself, because I find people nowadays are way mature than I was in those ages. If I'm to talk about my early 20s, I probably was also way behind in terms of a lot of people my age at that time too, because I never cared about my life as such or what my career is going to look like, how much money I'm going to make. I knew I was going to make money and I want money, but what was I doing to get that? Nothing. Was I motivated enough to work towards it? No. Was I hanging out with the right people? No. Was I even as in terms of the education, because I was capable enough to think what's happening in the world? Was I also trying to achieve the right education? No. And then when I reached my 30s, and then I was like, holy, you know, this is something that I don't know how to handle now, and but I know that I need to somehow do something, and I don't want to end up like being confused for the rest of my life. But nowadays I see people in their early 20s, like the same influencer we were talking about, Jake Paul. These people are millionaires in their early 20s, right?
Yeah.
So either it's the motivation, the craziness that they have inside of them, or just you can call pure luck that they made contents and they went viral. But the fact is, I always used to think and still believe in this, that the generation today have more information in hand, and they probably are on the boat edge. There's nothing in between now. Either they're really smart and they take advantage of it and they grow, and you can see that. You probably know them now because of your phone and your Instagram and Snapchat. You know who's who, and when you know how old they're, oh, they're 19, they're 20, or they're 25. Okay, and then the other side is people who are just indulging in themselves into maybe the social media spiral that I say, and they just want to fake things to show people, do drugs, party, and show a lifestyle that they don't really have, but want to have. And at that same time, when the viewership probably goes, or people then know the real them, they're the one who are being affected. And some of them, I've also heard a lot of stories that are suicidal then, in their early 20s. So that was pretty rare in my time, at least, that people used to be really bothered about the world and commit such crime or damage to themselves. But social media has also widened that spectrum, that people easily doubt themselves, and they get into depression, or they just don't like to do anything at all. They're just, like you said, go into sites that are not really pleasing for you in the long term, and they indulge themselves into self pleasure, and they don't want to go out, socialize, or do the norm that was there like 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Well, if we really think about it, if we really think about it, I don't know if the dates will be accurate, but let's just say 50 years ago. Let's say 1974, 50 years ago, right? That's 50 years. If you wanted to see a beautiful uh 1% human being, you either bought a magazine or you turned on the television.
Correct.
Now you open your phone, and the way social media is created is it's created with an algorithm. I am in pretty good shape. Like if you put me in a room with 100 people, I'm probably in the top 5.
Yeah.
Hypothetical. If you put me in social media land, I am not even close to any of them. Social media rewards the top 1% of 1%, and then we assume that's what's normal. There's you go on social media and you see models that it's like, does this person really look this way in real life? Like, how is that even possible? You see guy bodybuilders that are just so
Jacked. Yeah.
jacked. You see people who drive Maseratis and Lamborghinis and Aston Martins. You see people who live in multi-million dollar homes. That's always been that way. We just never had access to it. We couldn't see it. Just like there's so many atrocities happening all over the world,
Mhm.
many of those atrocities have been happening. We just didn't have access. You didn't know because you only knew what was going on in your town, in your city. And then the problem is exposure without awareness creates anxiety.
Yeah.
Exposure of you know what's going on everywhere in the world whenever you want. But the awareness of, has that always been going on and we just didn't know? Is crime actually worse than it's been, or is it better? I think it's actually better, proven that now is the safest time ever to live on the planet, but we're perpetuating more negative content so you don't know that. It's this
Mhm.
weird, I think exposure without awareness is a very dangerous thing because you don't know in terms of perspective where it used to be, right?
Right.
That's why it's so hard. You have to study history, and not a lot of people want to study history.
Yep.
Understandable. And then it's the whole thing of what history is right and what's not. It's weird. Being a human is weird, Rohit. It's a
Yeah,
weird thing.
especially in this time and age when, like they used to say, information is good, but like you said, without awareness or the understanding how to utilize that information, can be very dangerous at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so actually also brings me to another point, and probably you, I want to share this with you as well. I never used to be someone who would also work out in my early 20s or my teens. I've never done that. Very recently also that I've been dedicated enough to, just go at least 3 times a week and do those routine exercises. But yeah, can you tell me your journey? How did you get into fitness? Like you said, you were also like self-doubting yourself and you wanted to, be the better in the better shape that you could ever be. So how did that come to you? When did you start doing that? Probably for some viewers out there who need some motivation. So I think you're someone who can provide that.
I appreciate that very much. And congrats. Congrats on the
Thank
fitness.
you.
That's amazing. You're very welcome. You're
Thank
very welcome.
you.
I so I have good genetics.
Okay.
That's one thing. I didn't know my dad. I didn't meet my dad until I was 27, but
Okay.
I used to hear stories of how strong and big my dad was.
Okay.
My dad was jacked. He's jacked. So I got my dad's genetics.
Did you get those
Well,
calves too from the genetics? Because a lot of
what
people, the calves, when they train, the
yeah, I don't know. People say I have big calves, but I think at least every man thinks they have small calves, kind of no matter what.
yeah.
It's kind of a thing. They
Okay.
get compliments on them, but
Okay. Good. Then you do have good genetics because
yeah, I guess. I
yeah.
guess.
Sorry.
I care more about the upper body. I have good legs too. Just
Yeah.
the ass or who knows the calves. But I was somebody who I was 15 or 16, and I felt like the little guy. I mean, I'm 5'5" on a good day.
Okay.
So I knew I was never going to get any taller. I knew that wasn't going to happen.
True.
So my friends and I, there was a gym down the street from where we lived. We started going to the gym, and I just fell in love with bodybuilding. I loved going in and just having a mindset of today I'm going to challenge myself, and the weights don't care about how I feel. It doesn't matter if I had a good day, doesn't matter if I had a bad day. So I started lifting weights when I was 16.
Okay.
I wanted to fight professionally. So we were talking about mixed martial arts and
All right.
combat sports. So I worked at a gas station after high school. So when I was 18, 19, I worked at a gas station. I'd work from 6 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. I would go to the gym right after and lift weights. I'd go home and eat, and then I'd go train martial arts for like 3 hours a night. So that was my life for I don't know how long I did it for, but it was amazing. I was in such good shape, and I was taking care of my body, and it felt really good. And I kept lifting even after I stopped martial arts. And then in my mid 20s, when I was 25, somebody came up to me in the gym and they said, "Hey, have you ever done a bodybuilding show?" And I said, "No, no, no. Nope. I don't want to stand on stage in my underwear." And he said, "Dude, you look really good. If you hired a coach, you could win." And I was like, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Ended up reaching out to a coach. My coach, the first coach I had was horrible. So I reached out to a second coach. And then I ended up doing a prep for a bodybuilding show where I dieted down for 9 weeks or 12 weeks. And it was terrible. It was like the worst thing ever of all time. And then I ended up winning my class in that show. And after that, I had an eating disorder for a short time, and my hormones were messed up because I was just so lean when I was dieting. And then I said, I'm never going to do a bodybuilding show again. But I've been weightlifting for the
Nice.
last 17 years, essentially. And
Wow.
it's not even just about that. It's so much of it's about mental health. Like,
Yeah. I agree. Now I agree. Yeah.
right?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
We were talking in the beginning about about martial arts.
Yeah.
And last night we were watching the Mike
Nice.
Tyson and Jake Paul fight. I went to bed at like 1 o'clock, and I got up at 6, and I went to the gym, and I started my day at the gym, and I feel so much better. I feel good. I feel grounded. I'm tired, but I feel like I started with a solid foundation.
Correct.
And as I get more stressed out with the amount of stuff that's happening within the business and everything we're doing, I always find that that's the pillar. If I go to the gym, essentially I feel better than I feel better than I would if I didn't go.
Didn't go. Yeah, correct.
So yeah, that
Because
that's my
yeah, you go or you don't go. It doesn't make a difference to the other things that you do, but it definitely makes a huge difference in the way you think in terms of how you feel, and probably if there are things to be done, you still get it done anyway, right? So this is one of those things that people tell me that don't take it as a chore, or sorry, don't take it as a sport or anything that you have to do anything other than a daily chore. You have to do it no matter what. Without it, it's just something that you can't probably function. Think of it in that way. So I was like, cool, nice. Probably a bit about your background. Were you born and raised in the United States, or?
Yep. Yeah, I was born and raised in a small town, like an hour outside of Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And I lived in Massachusetts for most of my life, and then in my mid to late 20s, I moved to New Hampshire,
Okay.
and my wife and I live in New Hampshire now. So yes.
Nice, nice. And one more point that I would love to touch also right now, you were talking about some things that you're doing in your business and some expansions probably, or some changes. Would you like to probably share with us what those are, and how that journey is going for you, and how do you want to direct your podcast and your business, in what way are you heading? Just probably for someone who's also starting, and it could have an idea that yes, these are the struggles that Kevin faced, and this is what he did. But at the same time, his approach towards the future or his business growth was something that they probably can learn.
Yeah, right now we are in the season of leadership.
Oh,
So we have a 19-person team, and
wow! Congratulations, by the way.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's really there's a lot of books on leadership. There's a lot of courses you could take on leadership. I don't think there's any better way to learn leadership than just to start trying to lead people, but figuring out how does somebody like to be led? But what is their style? What is their communication style? Are they somebody who has really high self-belief and they say, "Look, just tell me what I messed up with. Where did I mess up and I'll fix it?" Is it somebody who struggles with self-belief where it's not my job to point out the flaws, it's my job to get them to try again tomorrow. Those are two very different humans, and that's emotional intelligence, right? That's really what I'm focused on now, is trying to be the most emotionally intelligent leader I can be, because IQ is great, but IQ doesn't necessarily help when it comes to leadership.
Correct.
So I would say that's really the expansion that we're focused on right now. Is we're focused on making sure that our leadership is lending to everything that needs to happen within the business. And the other thing is just really stay focused on the fundamentals. We grew a lot and we grew our business a ton. And then we started adding things that weren't going to pay off for 2, 5, 10 years. And we just poured resources into stuff and wasted a lot of money. And now we're going back to simplify,
Uh-huh.
do the 20% of stuff that brings you 80% of results.
Okay, the 20 rule.
Yeah. And don't chase any shiny objects. We are really good at these 3 things. We will do those 3 things as good as humanly possible. Don't fall victim to, let's try this shiny object. Let's try this shiny object. You can try that stuff, but make sure you're always doing the 20% that brings you the 80% results. And then you have a little test budget in terms of time. We're like, all right, let me try this for a half hour today, see what happens there. We're in that phase where we've done a lot of expansion, we've done a lot of contracting. Now we're trying to expand the stuff that we know has to be the priority, should remain the priority, and it's just the unsexy fundamental stuff that we're really good at, that we know.
Nice. And if you don't mind me asking also, how many hours a day do you work personally?
I work 12 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday. I usually work like 6 hours Saturday, so
Okay.
probably close to 70 hours a week, let's
Nice.
say at this point. And then my business partner, my business partner works 12 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Okay.
And then he's all week. He works probably 12 hours a day every day. He is a different level of human being. I'm very grateful I have such a wonderful business partner,
That's amazing.
but he is working just essentially all the time. Yeah, he works constantly.
Nice. Um, yeah, there are many things that I wanna discuss with you, but looking at the time that you have, we still have
Come back.
we
I'm happy to do a podcast.
yes, we would. We definitely would. We would definitely do that. I think we still have 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we have 15 minutes.
Thank you. So, yes, probably one of the topics that I really like to discuss with all of my guests, and I do just want to understand what they think about this person, and just because I listened to him, but again, before I tell you about him, not in any way I'm affiliated with him or I'm a blind follower of this guy, but I believe that I can take out the good with anyone, just like you. If after this podcast I've already learned a few things from you. I can tell you that right now. And after this podcast, if I happen to be implementing those in any part of my life, I would, because this is something that I'm here to learn, right? So if Kevin has taught me something, I'll definitely learn it without any two thoughts or putting it on my ego that, oh no, why should I learn from him? I'm not someone who's like that. I want to do that, in fact, because I believe if it's better for me, I'll just take it out. If there's something that wrong you do, or tomorrow if I get to know you're doing something terrible, I would just say, yeah, okay, sure, he's probably doing that, but I still learned this from him. I'm just not gonna follow what he did wrong. So similarly, this person, a lot of people criticize him, but he is famous. He's made a mark for himself, and a lot of young audience is his supporter, and they're crazy for him too. The guy is Andrew Tate. I'm sure you've heard about him.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this guy?
Oh man, I think he he makes toxic look confident.
Okay, yeah, that's very common comment that I hear from people.
Yeah, I think it's weird how, and again, it depends on how deep you go and how much research you do, but it's very strange to me that allegedly a gentleman who created a business by taking advantage of women then goes on to teach men how to be good men. I can't get on I can't get on board with that.
Yeah.
I just
That's one thing I don't agree with him, or even support. But there's also the other side that says that, he himself actually coached this, but again, it's not related or it's not even good. He says, "Oh yeah, Jay-Z used to sell crack and now people like him and praise him." But for me, being what business he was in, technically he was pimping, right? So
technically.
that's not morally right. But again, do we still have pimps in the world? Are there still brothel houses that we know of? Yes. But the way he has made money out of that and then led a certain life, and to your point, when he is guiding people about a certain subject, that's when I feel, yeah, you know what? You do have the capability to probably speak about how business works, how marketing is done, how to be in shape, because he's pretty much in the best shape that a human can be. And plus he's been a professional fighter. So yes, that's very good. The lows that he comes from, that's good. But just like you mentioned, moral policing someone about something is still something that I'm going to question him. Hey, you did it because you felt right at that time.
Yeah. Well, that's really hard for me because we literally just did an episode, so it's powerful that we're talking.
Really?
You know, we literally just did an episode on alignment.
Okay.
I wouldn't take business advice from him.
Okay.
I wouldn't take almost any advice from him. And the reason is his core values, his core beliefs, and his core aspirations are different than mine. He doesn't know what I value. So he can't lead me effectively. Now, to your point, Could I go through his content and figure out what lands for me? Yes, I could. Right?
Yeah.
Have I? No. Will I?
No.
No. It's just not my cup of tea.
True.
We've had some really good mentors,
Okay.
holistically way more successful than him.
I agree. I would agree here.
And we have moved on from some of those mentors because their core, it just didn't align. It didn't align. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I think some of the stuff he says where he talks about, hey, you should exercise and you should work on yourself. Cool. Love that.
Mhm.
Love that. Some of the other stuff, it's just like, I don't think this is really helpful for people.
Mhm.
And I cannot vibe with people who scam people out of money.
Mhm.
One of the ways he built his business is by scamming people out of money. That doesn't mean you're good at business. That means you're good at scam. That's different. The Sam Walton who built Walmart, he understood business at a deeper level than Andrew Tate will
Mhm.
ever. It just
Mhm.
so yeah, but would I take advice on kickboxing from him?
Yeah.
He knows kickboxing way better than I do, for sure. So to your point, there are some things, but I think there are some people that are net positive.
Mhm.
I think there are some people that are net negative, and I think there are some people that are net neutral. I would say, oh man, I think he's probably net negative if I'm
Okay.
being breed.
No, that's fine. Yeah, that's perfect. And what do you think is the effect of people like him on the youth because they have a huge fan following, you know?
Yeah, I think it's dangerous to role model someone that you don't know.
Yeah, and let's be honest, like you and me now are in our 30s. Um, what if we were in our teens or in our early 20s and we had someone like Andrew Tate back then who flashes his Lamborghinis, his cars, his mansions and private jets and women and in particular which you and I as men can relate to that yeah, it's quite appealing even to people at this age in time. So what would you say if you were probably one of those how easy it is for people to be just influenced and not even, think through it?
It's it's the human condition. It's psychologically accurate. Yeah, when you have nice things, you have more influence over people that like nice things.
Mhm.
It's just that's perception, that's social proof, it's so many things. It's it's very dangerous because here's the thing. If you let's say you're somebody who went through a really bad breakup and you're a man who dates women and you come across this guy who's talking about how women are the root of all of your problems, you can be like, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Mhm.
Just like if you were going through something else and you felt like the lack of money was all the root to all your problems, you find someone who talked about that. There's a certain frequency that gets attracted to that. And usually the people are talking directly to what your problems are. So you resonate with everything that they say.
Mm.
Yeah, you just got to be very careful and you got to do research on the person. It, but to your point, can you separate the person and the advice from what they did? I
Mhm.
guess. I
That
guess.
that is hard. I agree with you.
It's hard and it's a choice too. Do you want to? Right?
Mhm.
I don't maybe I just don't care enough. It's like there's a million better places to learn about business. I can give you 5 books off the top of my head that are going to teach you way more about business. But they're not as flashy for sure. And they're kind of boring. So I understand why
Mm.
you might not want that.
Want that, yeah. He's
So bite your tongue.
I call him the best marketer in the world actually because he
It's
makes
good at marketing.
like you said, a lot of things that he do or the business that he does. And there was actually a very recent podcast, I believe, or an interview that I was watching where someone was talking about how his online school is making him a lot of money, but that eventually too would someday be proven to be a scam. So I'm not in his platform, so I don't really know what he offers. But from the crux of it, from what I see, is that he provides you some educational. He provides an educational platform where probably he has some experts who could guide you into social media, blah blah blah. And a lot of people say, yeah, that's something that you can find on YouTube and he sells it in a way, that no, you can find all of these only in my platform, and they're designed for you. So I personally feel he's a really good marketer, because at the end of the day, the dollars are proving that whether right now it cannot be a scam anymore, because you're doing it publicly, and how you're being monitored right now by the government because of what he's going through. I'm sure you know about the cases he's going through. So despite all of that, if you're still bringing in millions of dollars a month from subscriptions, so now you can call people being stupid, sure, but I would say you're a good marketer. You know how to present your product to people. Be it, you sell them a $2 pen thinking that it's a Parker. So if you can do that, then you're the best marketer. And the joke is on the person who's buying it, right now.
Yeah, but usually that comes back to bite the marketer in the butt. It's just a matter of how long does it take, right?
True.
Have you ever heard of CoffeeZilla? Have you ever?
Yes, yes. I've watched this video.
I love CoffeeZilla. Shout out to
Yes,
CoffeeZilla.
yes, yes.
Huge fan. The this is what we'll end with, because I gotta hop at 3.
Yes, yes.
I don't mean to sound negative when I say
No, no,
but
please.
I am I am saddened by how many people allegedly have lied, cheated, stolen, fabricated stories to get to where they are today. It's way more common than I thought. CoffeeZilla exposes a lot of this stuff,
Mhm.
and he does a ton of research, really. But I've heard so many stories, and I've watched so many deep dives on YouTube about people who trade in their character for results.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it it's kind of like it's like a job now. You just pretend to be someone. I was thinking about this last night when I was watching the Jake Paul fight. It's like, is he a good person behind the scenes who just pretends he's a terrible person?
Mm.
Or is he a terrible person who is just a terrible person
Yeah.
who's really good at marketing and he knows how to make money?
Correct.
I don't know, but he got to where he got to. It's up to him to decide whether or not he stayed in alignment with what he values.
Mhm.
And that's the hard thing, is at the end of the day, Rohit, what you value is what you value, what I value is what I value.
Correct.
When you go to sleep tonight, only you know whether or not you're in alignment.
Yep.
When I go to sleep tonight, only I know whether or not I'm in alignment. And
Yep.
it's our job to try to make sure we stay there. So
True.
yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's a very challenging thing. Would you rather stay in alignment and not accomplish your goals if you had to choose? Or would you rather go out of alignment a little bit and accomplish your goals? That's the conversation. I choose the first one, except I want to try to find a way to stay in alignment and get everything I want and have the impact I want. But it's harder for sure.
Correct. And I think this is a very subjective topic in itself, and we can most definitely do a different session. I can probably even let you know when I'm visiting the United States. Maybe we can do a joint podcast over there. Hmm. Probably that's gonna be sometime soon in December. So I'll just see and work with your partners if you have some time, and then I would love to just come down and discuss more, because I feel like you're very knowledgeable. This is my feedback about my interaction with you. We've never spoken on the phone. Email conversations, just probably very to the point. But having you on this show and on this podcast, I feel like there's a lot of things that not only me but a lot of the viewers can learn from you, because your experience is literally an ordinary man who struggled and gave everything from, to just right now being somewhere he's contented, happy, having a good business. And plus, not only that, you have a team of 19 people. So that in itself speaks a lot about your work and your, your dedication. And plus the things that you talked about, future growth. So I think there's a lot of things that I need to still talk to you about, and I can learn from that. But this 1 hour session is also very, very good. So I thank you for that.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It was genuinely my pleasure. I researched your show and I was like, oh, this might take Julie. Obviously very curious, I like how you're willing to talk about stuff that's scary and requires courage, but you're balanced on it.
Yes. You have
I
to do it.
appreciate that. Well, it's your perspective. This is mine.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will come on, and next time we can do whether it's in person or virtual, we can do the hour and a half, whatever. I'm
Thank you.
whatever, my
Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best, and hope to talk to you soon. Bye, sir.
100%.
Take care.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Oh.
Boom.